Bhakti Yoga Bhakti Yogasya Margam
Bruhi Vistarasha Prabhu.
Ruhi Vistarasha Prabhu.
Translation. Devotee inquired, my dear Lord, you have already very scientifically described the symptoms of the total material nature and the characteristics of the spirit according to the Sankhya system of philosophy. Now I shall request you to explain the path of devotional service, which is the ultimate end of all philosophical systems. Now the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice summary of the chapter. So maybe we can look at it. In this 29th chapter, the glories of devotional service are elaborately explained, and the influence of time on the conditioned soul is also described. The purpose of elaborately describing the influence of time is to detach the conditioned soul from his material activities, which are considered to be simply a waste of time. In the previous chapter, material nature, the spirit, and the Supreme Lord or Super Soul are analytically studied, and in this chapter, the principles of Bhakti Yoga or devotional service, execution activities in the eternal relationship between the living entities and the personality of Godhead are explained. Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, is the basic principle of all systems of philosophy. All philosophy which does not aim for devotional service to the Lord is considered merely mental speculation. But of course, Bhakti Yoga with no philosophical basis is more or less sentiment. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada continues. Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of all existence. One has to understand everything by examining its nature and characteristics. This is called acquirement of knowledge. But one should not simply acquire knowledge without reaching the goal of life or the basic principle for acquiring knowledge, Bhakti Yoga. If we give up Bhakti Yoga and simply busy ourselves in the analytical study of the nature of things as they are, then the result will be practically nil. It is stated in the Bhagavatam that such engagement is something like husking a paddy. There is no use beating the husk if the grain has already been removed. Text 3. Virago yena purusho
Virago Yena Purusho
Bhagavan sarvato bhavet
Bhagavan Sarvato Bhave
achaksva jiva lokasya
Achakshva Jiva Lokasya
vidida mama samsrite.
Siddham Samsmite.
Devotee continued, my dear Lord, please also describe in detail, both for me and for people in general, the continual process of birth and death. For by hearing of such calamities, we may become detached from the activities of this material world. Samsritihi is very important. Shreya Sriti means a prosperous path of advancement towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Sansriti means the continued journey on the path of birth and death towards the darkest region of material existence. So, devotee wants to know this also, so people will understand the futility of the material life. It's not all enjoying only. So she requests her glorious son, Kapila Muni, to explain about this continued journey, to impress upon the conditioned souls that they are undergoing a path of degradation by not understanding the path of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service. Text 4. Kalasyeshvara rupasya
कालस्य स्वरूपस्य
Paresham cha parashyate
पारेषां च परश्यते
Swarupam vada kurvanti
स्वरूपं बत कुर्वन्ति
Yaddeto kushalam janaha.
यद्देवतो कुशलं जनः
Please also describe eternal time, which is a representation of your form, and by whose influence people in general engage in the performance of pious activities. So, the Purport Prabhupada says, however ignorant one may be regarding the path of good fortune and the path down to the darkest region of ignorance, everyone is aware of the influence of eternal time, which devours all the effects of our material activities. So death is always acting on us. It's not like only in some time. The day we are born, we are dying. Yes. Everyone is conscious of the last stage of life, when he will meet the cruel hands of death. But some consider their age and circumstances concern themselves with the influence of time and thus engage in pious activities, so that in the future they will not be put into a low family or an animal species. So basically, Prabhupada says they only want to make sure they'll come back in a better life. But that's not our goal. They just want to do pious activities. And you cannot really stop the birth and death. Whether you do pious activities or any kind of sacrifice like that, which is not centered around pure devotion or pure devotional service, you will always keep coming back in this cycle. Whether he goes to the topmost Brahmaloka, he still has to come back. Yeah?
If somebody do rituals,
Huh?
somebody do rituals of some kind of,
Yeah,
so that means he is still in a material world.
yeah.
So any kind of
Anything that is not connected to Krishna, you will come back.
or devotional.
Lokasya mitya vimate achakshusha Chiram prasuttasya tamasi anashraye Santasya karmasvano viddaya diya Tama virasi kila yoga bhaskara. My dear Lord, you are just like the sun, for you illuminate the darkness of the conditioned life of the living entities. Because their eyes of knowledge are not open, they are sleeping eternally in that darkness without your shelter, and therefore they are falsely engaged by the actions and reactions of their material activities, and they appear to be very fatigued. So here you can see she's not only asking for herself, she's also asking for all the other living conditioned souls. So Prabhupada says she's very glorious because she's compassionate for other people also. And because they don't know what the goal of life, they're all just sleeping, eating, mating, defending. So Prabhupada understands this mood because he is also like that. And he also says she is glorious. And he says it is the general feeling of the Vaishnava or devotee of the Lord that he should awaken them. So devotee means he wants their help. And then in the next paragraph, Prabhupada says, Bhakti Yoga is the sun-like illumination for delivering the conditioned souls, whose general condition is described here. They have no eyes to see their own interests. They do not know that the goal of life is not to increase the material necessities of existence, because the body will not exist more than a few years. The living beings are eternal, and they have the eternal need. If one engages only in caring for the necessities of the body, not caring for the eternal necessities of life, then he is part of a civilization whose advancement puts the living entities in the darkest region of ignorance. So this is what present society is. It is putting everyone in the darkest of ignorance because the leaders, present leaders, don't know themselves. They don't know what is good for the people, what will help the people. Rather, the society is set up just for economic well-being, just to produce economic necessities. They don't mind if people perform some kind of pious activity, so dharma, and then they also go for artha and kama, but they don't want the moksha part. Right? The present society is dharma, artha, kama only. Of course, they don't do it in a traditional, in a religious way. It is done in their own, ruthless way. So, no interest about another living entity. You can see even the people who run the country, they are not really interested in the welfare of the people, general population. They are only interested in getting their approval. Right? They only want everyone to approve them, so they go and do a lot of campaign. And they spend sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars, which could be used for so many things, It's totally
Obama's campaign was $1 billion.
Yeah, so all this could be used for the...
Then the difference is...
for the population, so many things they need. People need so many necessities. All those are not looked into. And all this is due to inability to understand the goal of life, basically.
If they understand dharma, then they can reach to moksha. If they are not following dharma, that means just they are interested in earth and kama only.
No, they do some religious activity.
Some.
That's how you can say that. They're just doing something, but it's not like the dharma we understand. Right? Our understanding of dharma is different from theirs is just enjoying only. That's their dharma.
In that sense.
That's why in the second verse in the Bhagavatam, dharma projita kaitava, kaitava. You kick out all these unnecessary things.
Cheating dharma.
Yeah. All religious activities motivated by material interests, is not considered to be religion. It kicks out, completely rejecting, right? So Prabhupada says, all religious are motivated by religious activities, motivated by material activities.
So even we also come with like different desires and backgrounds to initially when we come to devotion service. So it's motivated for some time, right? But at least we should not act on it, like what's the difference? Like, because it takes a while or maybe lifetimes to become pure devotee, right?
True, but at least your intention is good, that you want to become a devotee. Whereas most other people have no intention to be a devotee of Lord. The whole understanding is to pursue their enjoyment, their sense gratification. Whatever you call it, dharma, artha, kama, it's always for their self. It's a selfish thing. Real religion is not selfish, it's selfless. Like you see, she's so compassionate. She really is thinking about the welfare of other personalities. But nowadays people don't really care. Right? You experience, most of you are working out there. Right? The people you work with are not really your true friends. I mean, to some extent they may be good people. Right? But in general they are not, they may say, oh, it's a pity or something. They're not really praying for you. Right? They may pray that you don't get the promotion they get. Right? But they're not really really your well-wishers, so to speak. They're not truly in the sense. They are sentiment, Prabhupada mentions, right? They're sentiment. You just perform religion or a sentiment. So basically most of them are sentimental about things. Right? If somebody gets killed or shot, they all will say, oh, this is not good. But they all is based on sentiment. Right? Or if you have some, like many parents, they don't want their children to watch shows which has very bad things in it. So they voice their opinion in the present society. Then you have a group of people who say, why you are watching those? You just turn it off. So this is how they talk, because they don't really care. They're not thinking the consequences of their statements. They're not thinking there is a situation where the young children will still be watching. They say, why you let them watch? This is how they talk. Yeah. But almost every show is now a filth. I should say all the shows except
All
for
the show actually.
except for maybe the news, maybe everything else is filth. So it's not going to help the society. If you take 50 years ago, the standard, and now 50 years later, the standard. That's why Prabhupada was saying it's becoming so degraded. It's all based on the sense enjoyment. So these are what he means by sleeping the darkest region. And so he gets very tired of his life. And then to adjust his difficulty, he creates different conditions. Right? So he invents the horses, he need to feed the horses, and so he didn't want to use horses. So then he invented cars, and then the cars produce so much noise and pollution. So they try to introduce things to reduce the emissions. Still it's emitting, but reduce it. So it sounds great, reduced emission. But you can see, if we go to I've been to China, it's so polluted. Yeah, you can see all the black soot will be falling, Just in one day, it's terrible. And it's there like that for many days.
Black rain.
It's like that. It's not rain, it's soot. It's a foggy, it's very
Smog. It's all industrial.
Yeah, smog, whatever they want. Huh?
It's all industrial smog.
Yeah, so they're all doing, and they are the big industries, and they're producing for the whole world. So each and every one of us are responsible for that suffering in that
So
country.
made in China.
Huh? Yeah, you can say major, but then you want those things. So we are indirectly responsible for all this. So that is why choices are important as devotees. When there's no choice, then you may you're forced to do it. But if there's choice, then you should make a good choice. Text 6. So now we go back to Maitreya. Maitreya Vacha Itimato Vacha Lakshnam Pratinandya Mahamuni Abhabase Kuru Shrishta Nitastam Karunadita. Sri Maitreya said, O best among the Kurus, the great sage Kapila, moved by great compassion and pleased by the words of his glorious mother, spoke as follows.
Is Maitreya talking to Vidura?
Yeah. So that's conversation within a conversation. I mean, that's how the whole thing is set up, so we understand. That's because there's no need to reinvent. So they just say, okay, just watch this thing, watch that. Sometimes they say, read this book. Like that. So similarly, they don't need to, Maitreya Rishi doesn't need to, all he has to do is repeat what was said by Kapila Muni to Devahuti. Like that.
4 layers. 4 layer, right?
Fourth or sixth layer, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. See, you can start from Parikshit Maharaj Sukadev, then you say how many conversations, then you can see. So I believe Maitreya's discussion finishes with the third canto. Yeah, and then it goes on to something else. So Lord is always compassionate. Prabhupada explains in the purport. So similarly, just like the Lord is very compassionate, His devotees are also compassionate. Compassionate means what? Yeah, what does it mean?
Always thinking about
Welfare of another person. What is the welfare of another person?
it's reminding them of Krishna, connecting them back to Krishna.
Reminding them of Krishna, connecting them with Krishna.
In I think first chapter or second chapter, you know about Bhagavad Gita. Real compassion is compassion towards the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're suffering because of forgetfulness of Krishna, so they try to remind them.
Right, so that is what it is. Not we can't just go and tell people connect you to Krishna. It doesn't make sense. It has to be something that they can relate to. Our lifestyles, everything has to be. We have to process all these things and look at ourselves, how we are living in this world. What are we achieving? What is good? What is not good? What can be better? Is this lifestyle really going to make me happy, or is this lifestyle going to be making me happy? Like that, one has to be able to assess all these things. So therefore, compassion is very important. And how can you develop compassion?
First compassion on self.
First, compassion on ourselves. Okay, I guess we can do that. How else?
By serving those devotees who have compassion.
By serving devotees who have compassion, yes.
Associating with those devotees.
Associating, serving, yes.
By also meditating on it.
By meditating about it, yes. That's true. Compassion is something you cannot artificially show. So it takes a long time to cultivate it. And it comes about through purification. And what you all said is true, association and so on. But at the same time, one has to internalize. It's not the same as being kind to somebody for, real compassion is trying to touch their hearts, their soul. Like that. So it takes time. It takes a lot of work. Chanting nicely. Understanding why this process is important. All this must be internalized. Then you will appreciate why you're doing it. Then you can give to others. Yeah.
I was remembering one of the lecture I was saying in the Maharaj in London, like Maharaj gave the lecture. They said, yes, we have now philosophy, now we can go out on the Sankirtan, and then when you go out, then you'll see, experience by seeing and realizing, by applying, then you'll know how people are waiting or how they are related and they are looking for association of some mercy from the devotee. So is it that one way also, when we go out and then when we see people, then we can rely
But first you need to develop it. You have to first do your sadhana, everything nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. You go out, actually when you go out and do all these things, you become humble first. And then when you develop humility, then you can approach the soul properly. Then you understand you are also suffering in this world. And then you can give compassion to others.
In Bhagavad Gita, there's one verse where it says that the sage, because of his own experiences, he knows the happiness and distress of others from his own experience.
So that's, when you go on, I'm not sure about Harina, but if you go on books distribution, you'll acquire humility after a while. I mean, if you're proud, then you will be humble because they will all teach you how to be humble. And then you will see that, just like it's difficult for you, there's difficulties for everybody. Just if you remember the Avanti Brahmana in the 11th canto, how he studies from every living entity. He says they're all his teachers. In the same way, that's how we learn, Yeah. Then you can give compassion because you understand what is the real purpose in life. We read theoretically, but to give to somebody, you must be convinced. Unless you're convinced, you cannot make them convinced. Okay.
You cannot give what you don't have.
Yeah. You really have to understand. That's why you have to internalize. This process must be deeply thought of every day. But every day we try to think about our material needs, not the spiritual need. Right? Text 7. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Bhakti Yogo Bahuvido Margai Bhamini Bhavyate Swabhava Guna Margena Sambhavo Vibhidyate. Lord Kapila, the personality of Godhead, replied, O noble lady, there are multifarious parts of devotional service in terms of the different qualities of the executor. So according to the nature of a person, they will do devotion service accordingly. Okay. So there's pure devotion service and then there's mixed devotional service. So that's what he's saying. So Prabhupada says pure devotion service in Krishna consciousness is one because in pure devotion service there's no demand from the devotee to be fulfilled by the Lord. But generally people take to devotional service with a purpose. Okay. So in Bhagavad Gita, right, 7:16 of 15. Chaturvidde bhajate mam Sukritana Arjuna Artha Jignasa Arthati Jnanicha Bharata Rishabha. 4 types of people. One who is distressed, one is desire of wealth, one who is inquisitive, and one who is seeking further knowledge. So this type of people, it's all mixed. It's interesting, they are all considered kanistas. Yeah. Kanista in the nectar of devotion. So we know like Dhruva Maharaj, Gajendra, funny, Falk Maharaj. They exhibit those things, but actually they are all very advanced devotees. Yeah. Just for us to understand that even at that stage we can still take up devotional service. 7:16. Actually, the path of devotional service is one without a second. But according to the devotee's condition, devotional service appears in multifarious varieties. And this is what we will see in the next few verses. Abhisandaya yohinsam Dambam Matsaryam Evava Samrambi Binnadrikbhavam Mayi Kuryatsa Tamasaha. Devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent and angry, and who's a separatist is considered to be in the mode of darkness. That means he's pretty much in ignorance, actually. More ignorance. Yeah. So you know some people like this?
We are some
We are all sometimes like this. Exactly. So this is, that means we are not doing pure devotion service. We are doing mixed. Okay. Remember, the definition is Anyabhilashita Shunyam, unmotivated, uninterrupted, without our own selfish desire, like that. There's only one motive, as Prabhupada says in the purport. The only motive is to please Krishna. That should be the main goal. But if someone is not ready at that stage and he's doing it, his all qualities that are still unpurified will take over. In that conditioned stage, so therefore, for such people, they need to follow someone they respect. Otherwise, they will just go like that. They'll be envious of another devotee, or they'll be proud of what they did. And if they don't like anyone telling them, they get angry or they get violent.
So what is separatist?
He don't want to listen to anyone. Just want to do what he wants to do. So you say, "Come, we want to do this way." They say, "No, I want to do my way." That mentality, separatist. Now you will see that this manifests in even. You will see sometimes even in many older devotees or senior devotees. After many years, they may be in the movement. Still, they may want to do what they want to do, like that separatist method. So whatever we are taught by Srila Prabhupada, we have to follow it nicely, and that's why Prabhupada mentions there that things are received in disciplic succession. There is a reason why it's in the disciplic succession. So it is beneficial for us. It's already been studied, and that it will work for us like that. And that's the reason we have it in disciplic succession. So if we act under a spiritual master, then we will only act for the personality of God automatically. So therefore, we act under an authority, and if that authority is also acting for the pleasure of Krishna, then you are protected.
But still within that, our contamination still will come.
Yeah, of course it will come in the beginning stage, but it should be purified. Yeah.
Prabhupada, this is last paragraph. Separatists, he says his interests are separate from the Lord's.
Yeah. But continuing the same paragraph. But if one has a motive for personal sense gratification, his devotional service is manifested differently. Such a man may be violent, proud, envious, and angry, and his interests are separate from the Lord's. What it means is basically is his own desire, agenda, not for the pleasure of Krishna.
So if you are doing anything, if you have a personal motive or self,
Then it is not pure devotion.
Within even your devotion,
Yeah, it's not pure.
It's not pure.
It's not.
That
So
means-
even not even sustain for long.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, I thought.
It's a possibility.
Experience, it doesn't stay long because
I mean,
it will come out.
that's why we have a community, right? Temple. So they may be separatists, but because they keep coming to the temple, they get purified little by little. But if everyone is a separatist, then it takes a long time to get purified. So you can see, I mean, these are things you can't hide. Whether the interest is for the welfare of the common person or for their own agenda. Like that. Yeah.
Then it comes down to the purity of the desire. Right? When we engage in devotion.
Well, desire is either for Krishna or for yourself. No?
Yeah, but when I said like even for the Krishna, but still it is tinged with the selfish interest or motive, then that means it's still not.
No, they may not be doing it for Krishna. Like for example, you take a very simple example, it's cooking, no?
Mm-hmm.
So if you cook for yourself, right? But you want something you want to eat, and then you cook for the Lord and offer. But actually you are cooking for yourself.
in that.
Yeah, and that's how you can relate very nicely. But
You
of
want to
course, you
offer
know,
it,
you have to offer it. Of course, we have to offer
Offer
it.
it.
So the fact that the person is offering, he's doing something. But the whole idea is to not for personal interests. Yeah, it's more.
So that has to be very good.
So it takes time, you know, to. But this will only be quickened if you are guided by someone who's purer than you, and you're willing to say, okay, I have these problems. You guide me like that. Otherwise, it cannot take place. Otherwise, each of us will be saying the other guy has interests and stuff. Right. Otherwise, that's what will be. Then you find the whole temple or the whole community is like that.
So we're taking the example of this cooking. It's a very nice example
Yeah,
because
it's a very
every day,
simple.
every day, morning, evening, we are doing the same thing. But normally we think, okay, today we would like to eat pizza or something.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you eat.
Yeah. So how will we know? What Krishna wants to eat?
Even like we have a
Huh?
daughter. If daughter doesn't eat something, she wants something, so you have to offer.
No, it's like you don't want it for yourself, right? Like he's saying. No, like
That's
for
an extra
example, you may want, but your wife actually she don't want it like that, so she may cook it for you. That is what I'm saying. You know, you come to a stage where you don't really want those things anymore. You just
Stop.
no, it's true. How long you can eat things like that?
Yeah, yeah.
So then you'll offer what. Eventually, you'll offer to Krishna, and then you may not eat everything. You may just take a little bit and rest. You distribute. Yeah. So you'll cook opulently, you know? Like you go to some in Mayapur and all, right? They cook so opulently, and they just take what they need a little bit, and the rest they sell it in the gift shop. Like that, yeah. In the beginning, the pujari will take everything, and then he's after a while he's like, no, let's take one. I don't know if you have seen it, but I've seen it also. So they are.
I was reminded, in Prabhu's email I saw, don't start taking from the behind the That means that has happened.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Festivals and
Before the plates are washed, Maha is packed.
That is going at least going down.
That is okay. There's nothing wrong.
No, the guy who cooked doesn't get anything.
Oh.
So I can consider washing the plate.
But why the guy cooking don't have?
That's
Because
Prabhu's
back on-
point.
it's
Prabhu's
back.
point that who's cooking should not think or it.
No, that's a different story. But
No, but still at the end he may want something, right? Yeah. He's not.
No,
The person who's cooking may not be that advanced also, so then they will be unhappy to do this.
During big festivals, this happens because
No, it
so
shouldn't
many things
happen.
are there.
this packing, that's what happens.
No, it shouldn't happen.
I thought the packing happens only down.
Sometimes
No, it
Yeah,
shouldn't
so it's really
Huh?
previously we used to pack so many sweets whenever there's a big festival.
Yeah, so anyway,
Now we don't.
the point is that's a management thing. You all have to sort it. It's not. So it is mixed, and in this case, if someone is envious or angry with another person, but they can do a nice service, but still angry with another, then their service, as Prabhupada says, is a low grade. It's a low, tamasic, low grade. So you have to see yourself also, because at the end of the day, you can understand I'm not really that good devotee. If you don't come to that conclusion, then you have a problem. You have to analyze yourself also.
So the only way I think this cooking example is like, then take that not you, somebody else, what they like and make it. At least that way, other devotee likes it and you make it.
Yeah, you
Not
could
for
do that also. But the main thing is to do nicely. That's the main thing. Whichever you do, whatever service you do it the best you can. Yeah. Right. Because it has become like that over the years. If you ask someone to cook, then they will say, I need to cook at home and I have to cook here. So the compromise over the years, they will say, okay, you can take whatever you want for your family and then leave the rest for the devotee. So then they will think what my husband wants and so on, right? Not what I should cook for the deity. So that's where the problem is.
So Bhagavatam Prabhu does like this. He asks every day we go for Mondays we go for dressing. Previously, I used to, whatever he selects, we used to dress.
Right.
Now he started saying, okay, Prabhu, tell me what you like, which dress you like. I said, Prabhu, select something. No, you tell me. Until I tell something, he insists on.
Right.
And then he says, let's go with your choice.
Okay. There you go. So then he doesn't want to put that thing like that. So that's a nice practice like that. So similarly, you can have a fixed menu, of whatever you want to cook also, without any influence, or the head cook, head pujari can say, Monday I want you to cook this, each time this is the menu you cook. Then that can be also be done. So therefore the cook is only cooking under the.
I think that's really helpful. I think we are doing same thing.
That helps the or the cook can negotiate and say, today is a festival, maybe we should cook something extra. So negotiation is there. But those things are achievable, and then it makes the person not attached to what they want to cook like that. And then there should be rules that nobody should pack until the cook at least have made his or her plate. No, it has to be the cook. Otherwise, unless they are tyagis or whatever, then that's a different thing. Right? So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur advises that a Vaishnava who is not of good character should be avoided. So, how many people you all are avoiding? A Vaishnava is one who has taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. But if one is not pure and still has motives, then he is not a Vaishnava of the first order of good character. One may offer his respects to such a Vaishnava because he has accepted the Supreme Lord as the ultimate goal of life, but one should not keep company with a Vaishnava who is in the mode of ignorance. It's like Kanishta, excuse me. Right? So generally, Kanishta and even bad, they may have taken initiation, but they may be associating with all kinds of bad people and so on. Like that. So you don't want to associate with them. They talk nonsense and so on.
No, they'll be making offenses.
Huh?
They'll be making offenses by doing.
Yeah, okay, maybe. I mean, a lot of people, it's easy to point fingers at someone and say they are making offense. How do you know you're not making offense also? Right? Yeah. So maybe we are also just as ignorant as the other guy. So that's why, best to become humble. Not like, you think you are the one who knows everything. Text 9. Vishayana Vishandaya Yasha Aishwaryam Eva Archadav Archayadyo Mam Vitak Bhavasa Rajasaha. The worship of deities in the temple by a separatist with a motive for material enjoyment, fame and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. So there are devotees again in this category also. They want to be the pujari, and then they want to only do puja during Sunday feast. People can see them, take pictures with the deities. No, they are. You can see they have that separatist mentality. They want to be famous. They put their picture dressing in the Facebook, and say, "I did this," like that. Why are you laughing?
No, I know.
Yeah, so they have that kind of mentality. So Kapila Muni says this is in mode of passion. Yeah? So Prabhupada says separatists must be understood carefully. Here it's Binnadrik and Pritak Bhava. A separatist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees in the mode of passion and ignorance think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. And so they justify those things and say, so what is wrong? I need this. So what is wrong? Like that. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. So bottom line is that they don't know how to control their senses, so they use the Lord for their sense gratification. So Prabhupada says, actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. That means he is only doing it for the Lord. Whatever the Lord wants, he wants to do for him. Nothing else. When the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interests of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or the grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. So a lot of devotees are in this category. I mean, if you look at yourself, you may be doing this on many occasions. And so you have to ask yourself, is this what I want, sometimes, even politics and all, it all falls under this category. Temple politics and all, trying to be good to one side and then against another side. All these are trying to gain fame or position, like that. So all these are in the mode of passion. So we don't want all these things. So Prabhupada then talks about the Mayavadis, how they interpret the word separatists. They say that while worshipping the Lord, one should think himself one with the Supreme Lord. This is another adulterated form of devotion within the modes of material nature. The conception that the living entity is one with the Supreme is in the mode of ignorance. Oneness is actually based on oneness of interest. So there's a difference. Oneness doesn't mean you merge. Oneness should be what the Lord wants, what I will do for the Lord. So we only do what the Lord wants without any personal interest. So that is the idea behind this. Prabhupada writes very nicely. Text 10. Karma nirharam uddisya paraspin vatad arpanam yajad yastavyam iti va ritak bhava sa satvikaha. When a devotee worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offers the results of his activities in order to free himself from the inebriaties of fruitive activities, his devotion is in the mode of goodness. So that means he doesn't want any results. He doesn't want to take any results, no fruits of that action. Okay, so everything he says is the Lord's and he doesn't want. So Prabhupada then talks about the different varna and ashram. And they all have different duties accordingly. And by doing their duty, they are actually pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And remember, even for Arjuna, he says, you should do your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of those actions. So that is what karma arpanam is. They are doing it because the Lord is pleased that I can do these activities. But I don't want anything, So Arjuna finally realized, I'll just fight. I'll just fight because it makes Krishna happy. So similarly, we have to cultivate those kind of intelligence and service attitude. Like we are doing it so that Prabhupada is pleased and the Supreme Personality is pleased. Like that. It doesn't mean that you cook something, for example, and then you don't ask people, is it okay? Because you need to know also that did you do a good job or not. Not because you want to get, I'm so good.
No, once you cook, then somebody says glorified at cooking, then you keep asking.
Maybe that guy who says may not be, sometimes some people can eat anything, whether it's good, bad, or horrible, they will say it's okay. I've seen people like that. Either they have no taste buds. So you have to ask. Huh? Or they are just out of etiquette, everything is nice like that. So then you as a cook must know, are you hurting the Lord? Because sometimes people put a lot of spices. Right? How the Lord doesn't take things in the mode of passion. Everything must be cooked in the mode of goodness. So therefore you have to also cook for the Lord, Like a lot of people like chili, oily, salty. So you can't cook like that for the deities. So you have to cook Then after... No, pickles are different. Pickles can be spicy, pickle can be sour, pickles can be salty and sweet. So pickles can be, that's why the pickles are there. They're meant for enhancing different tastes. But the things you cook, it should be properly balanced. Okay? So that is what the whole idea is behind. Perform for the satisfaction of people.
If you go to south, you get spicy offerings only given to the Lord. Like they make pulihora and all those things.
Yeah, but then it has changed over the years.
Yeah.
But that was the cuisine of south.
No. It has changed.
There was
You will see if you go to different countries, they will cook according to their palate. But the whole idea behind is it should be cooked for the Lord's palate. Then later on, if you, like for example, you offer the Lord the plate, and then you think must be more spicy or what, then you put the chili on the side. So then if the Lord wants, he will eat the chili. So then after offering, you can take the chili and eat it. Because that's what you want.
but chili was not there in our
Vedic times, but they use black pepper and ginger.
Oh, chili was not even there.
chili, tomato.
But it doesn't matter. Prabhupada said you can use all that. So it's alright. Alright. So if there's any fault, we therefore ask for forgiveness, right? Just like when you, after dressing, you chant, right? Mantrahinam, Kriyahinam, Bhaktihinam, Janardana, right? So all those prayers are there. Because you're asking for forgiveness. I may have, and yeah, you will make mistakes. You're not perfect, but it should be sincere. The prayer should be sincere. Then there's still some difference. Prabhupada wants to emphasize. But if this offering process is in the mode of goodness rather than pure goodness, then the interest is different. Okay, so everyone has some inclinations.
So what is selfish about mode of goodness? Like,
Still, I'm doing everything good. Right?
Complacent.
Become complacent later. Oh, okay, I'll do it, okay, Well, you do everything nicely, but you think you're doing so good. It'll bring you down. Completely surrendering to Krishna is different from being satisfied.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
One
So
can be in mode of goodness without actually sincerely serving Krishna.
Huh?
One can be in mode of goodness without actually being a devotee.
For the Lord, So the varnas, according to Srila Prabhupada mentions, the four varnas act for some benefit in accordance with their personal interests. They do it, but they do it because they have some interest for their own. And therefore, such activities are in the mode of goodness. They cannot be counted in the category of pure devotion. Pure devotion service, as described by Rupa Goswami, is free from all material desires. So even in the Varna ashram, they do it, right? They do the yagna, all for some benefit. But they do it nicely, so therefore it's in the mode of goodness. So then Prabhupada continues in the next paragraph. Devotional service in the modes of ignorance, passion, and goodness can be divided into 81 categories. Okay. So because the three modes combine, and then they become 9 combined, 3, 27 combined, 3, 81, like that. There are different devotional activities such as hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering prayer, rendering service, and surrendering, and each of them can be divided into 3 qualitative categories. So the 9 into those 3, 27, and then again into the 3 again.
What is the other 3? 9 times 3 is 27, the 3 modes. What is the second 3 you mentioned?
Again with the 3 modes. Yeah. Prabhupada mentions that 3 multiplied by 9 equals 27, and when again multiplied by 3 becomes 81. So So it
What is the
doesn't.
next three? I didn't.
Again, material modes again. You got mixed and mix again.
Even
Oh,
in the mode of
When
goodness,
again
within that
multiplies.
goodness, within that passion. Again.
Oh, goodness. Not completely.
Yeah, within each category you can still have a mix again and again.
Even like Madhyama also has Kanishta,
Yeah.
Madhyama, Uttama, like that.
Right. So, it becomes infinite varieties based on those 9, 81. That's how even the body is formed, right? 81, and then they keep mixing and mixing. You got 8.4 million species like that. Based on that combination again.
So how is something a devotional service in mode of ignorance? Because devotional service,
He's
the separatists and so on are in the mode of ignorance. But it's kind of difficult to conceive devotional service in the mode, because if somebody is in the mode of ignorance, they are not really caring about devotional service.
Yeah, but he's still doing devotional service, but he's not doing pure devotional service.
Like that Lord Shiva's devotee who was cutting his body.
No. Don't mix that. That is not devotional. Devotional service means to Krishna, you're doing, to Vishnu, you're doing something, but you have some motive. But it's not pure devotion.
So it's an envious, angry.
Yeah, so there's so many different things. So according to how these modes are affecting you, you could be very, very bad devotee, or you could be very good devotee. Why not?
Satyanarayan Puja and all this.
Yeah, all these are not devotion, pure devotion. In fact, they're all not bona fide also. I don't know what they worship. Yeah. Anyway, it's like that. Yeah. Right?
So then if somebody is in, say, the 81st category of devotion, so they are gradually have to elevate themselves step by step.
Well, they're not necessarily gradually. Sometimes they realize this whole thing is wrong and they can jump. The whole thing they give up, that consciousness. Yeah. Right? Sometimes some person is always harsh with everybody, and then he may be chanting. Then one day something, he realized that he was wrong. Completely gives up that harshness. Right? And then he goes and begs forgiveness. Then he does his service in a totally very nice mood. That means he has changed from the lowest mode of passion to pure devotional service. That is possible, because out of the mercy of the devotees, one can immediately get out of that kind of mentality. Yeah, it is possible. Yeah. Because that's the power of this devotional service. Huh?
81 to 1.
So somebody is in that lower level.
Yeah.
Is it to be understood that it's just the modes acting, or is it also some of the previous karma that is?
It doesn't matter. Previous karma means still modes acting.
Manifestation in the body.
It doesn't matter. You always acted on by the modes. Unless you understand your position relative with intelligence, you avoid those feelings that are pushings, so to speak.
Should tolerate.
Yeah, you just. Prabhupada was asked, right? You have no sex desire. He said, no, it's there. Just that I don't think about it. Yeah. So the same thing. Those things are going to affect us anyway, because this is already your prarabdha karma. The body is already manifested. It's going to have certain problems fixed. Yeah. You just tolerate it and continue your devotion. That is rising above the Nishtraya Guna Bhava Arjuna. That's what it is. Okay? So that means to know that you have to read properly, and then you understand. I've been emphasizing, look inside yourselves, evaluate yourselves, internalize. This is what it means. Then you know, I have these problems, I'm still in the mode of ignorance. Why am I? Then you pray. Pray to Krishna, ask devotees for help like that. And if you find that devotees can't help you, then you ask your spiritual master like that. You ask someone who can actually help you. But you cannot be complacent thinking, oh, that devotee is helping me, and then you're still finding you still have those problems. That means the person is not capable of helping. Then you find someone who can help you. Like that. Text 11 and 12. Madguna Shruti Matrena Mayi Sarva Guhashayi